Hello and welcome to the Marketing Woman podcast. I'm your host, Anusha Khannan, and I'm so excited to have you here. Are you looking to move into marketing or want to learn marketing from scratch? We discuss all things marketing, analytics, business, personal branding, and much more in a way any layman can understand. If you're new here, make sure to follow along and get on that email list by visiting tmw.anushakhannan.com. And now, let's dive in. Before we get into this week's episode, I want to talk about what I've been up to these past couple of weeks, our bi-weekly catch-up. I've just been doing two things, to be honest. I caught up with my book reading, and I started reading this book called The Outliers, and I have it right here. I got through like 15 pages, and it's absolutely amazing. But I'm also trying to get into like novel reading, which is not really my thing, but I'm gonna try and do that as well. And the second thing is I've been catching up on a lot of podcast episodes that I have really missed out, and I caught up with the Dan Co, the podcast, and I was listening to this episode on creator. I think it was called the Creator Economy, and I absolutely loved it. I think it started with like talking about how what would authors of the olden days think about us, like sharing our knowledge through podcasts, through videos. We have such short attention span. And I was just thinking about that, and my mind has like this whole map going in, like how creator economy is gonna play a role into this. And is this how we're gonna articulate our thoughts these days? And we don't do we see book writing as a thing in the future, or is it just gonna be podcasts and videos and movies? Are we becoming more visually I don't know the word, like, are we just going into a more visual direction more than reading, which is something interesting to think about. But in today's episode, I have a very important guest. We have George on the show, and I've been listening to the B2B Playbook podcast since like 2021. And I remember being very new to the field at the time, and I was very intimidated. I did not know a lot about marketing, but George and Kevin made everything so much easier on that show, and I remember I used to be back in India at the time, so I used to wake up in the morning just to listen to their podcast episode, and I have to tell you, I've been following their podcast for a while, and I absolutely love them, so you should definitely check it out. It's called the B2B Playbook Podcast, and let's just dive into the episode and see what George thinks of personal branding and storytelling. Let's go in. In today's episode, we have a special guest with us. He is an expert in the marketing field, and he also has a podcast called the B2B Playbook Podcast. I think I came across this podcast in like 2021, and I came across the first episode, and I've been hooked ever since. And George has more than 12,000 followers on LinkedIn, and we're going to talk about how to create your own unique brand story and connect with your audience through storytelling. Welcome, George. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much, Anusha, and lovely to officially meet you. We've been
No.
connected for so long. I can't thank you enough for being an OG listener of the podcast. You supported us for so long, and I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Let's dive right into our discussion on how storytelling can be a powerful tool to connect with your audience and build your personal brand. In this context, why do you think storytelling is so essential?
Yeah, look, I think I'll start by saying that, look, so many marketing and branding attempts, they actually really fail because I think their marketing is just far too complicated. People are trying to get across too many messages, they're trying to make us feel too many things. And research shows that the more simple and predictable the communication is, the easier it is for our brains to digest. We don't want to do hard work as humans. We're always trying to take that path of least resistance. So if we make it too hard for our customers to understand how we can help them and why they should care, they're just going to ignore us and keep scrolling past us. And that applies B2B, B2C, personal branding. It's all the same.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Now, let's talk about factors that can make brand story truly compelling. What should individuals consider when they're crafting their own brand story?
Yeah, I look, I love frameworks, as you know, listening to the B2B playbook. My favorite one is just using the hero's journey framework, which really helps you map out that compelling brand story. There's five really clear components. Uh, and I guess those five components are, first of all, who is the hero? What does the hero want? Who does that hero have to defeat to get what they want? what tragic thing is going to happen to the hero if they don't win, and what wonderful thing will happen if they do win. It's the story format that every, great novel, every great movie really follows. It's very formulaic. You can go through and map it out for yourself. And the key here, Anusha, is you are not the hero of your own journey. It's actually the customer, or that dream audience that you're trying to influence is the hero of your journey.
Wow, I love that framework. I remember listening to that episode. Wow, that's amazing. It's so great to hear that on this context. Excellent points. Now let's dive into like the techniques that can captivate and engage your audience through storytelling. What do you think are some effective storytelling techniques that individuals can employ in their brand story?
Yeah, look, again, you've got to map out that hero's journey. It's so incredibly important to do it. Please don't skip that step. When you have a framework, it's the easiest thing to just follow that. On top of that, you can add a little bit more color. Once you get that hero's journey down, think about your hook. And that hook is so important. It's that first sentence, that first 10 seconds of your video that grabs your dream audience's attention and makes them incredibly curious. For me, a rule there is I don't really have any formulas for creating a hook. I know a lot of other people do. I'm just trying to think about touching on a pain point of what the dream listener, the dream customer has, and creating curiosity around it. So, that could be something like 6 ways to increase your pipeline without asking your boss for more ads budget. So, pain point, curiosity, how the hell can you do that? I'm hooked. Let me view more of what George has to say. Uh, I think also showing, not telling, is really, really important. I've been reading some books on storytelling a little bit more, just so I
Mhm.
can be a little bit more engaging when telling stories. And, don't tell us that you feel sad or anxious. Take us to that moment in time and show us what actually happened, what led you to that point. Be really descriptive. How did that situation evolve? Why did you respond that way? I think that's really how you make people connect and feel um, to your brand, to your story. And probably the final technique that I really love doing, and something that you've witnessed us doing for a long time, Anusha, is building in public, bringing your audience along for the journey. That's something that we're trying to do more and more of. We have a really exciting collaboration coming up called the Perfect Campaign, where we're bringing in 4 marketers to try and help us build the perfect campaign. We're going to be releasing the episodes as it unfolds. We're going to be releasing the results live. You're going to be seeing us adjust the campaign. So you're going to see all the mess ups at our side. You're going to see hopefully some success, but it gets to bring that audience along with the journey.
Yeah, I think it talks more about like authenticity. And I wanted to talk about that as well. Like, how do you think individuals can incorporate personal anecdotes and real life examples into their brand story to create like an authentic connection with their audience?
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, you have to do that because AI is just getting better and better. How to evergreen content is just so commoditized.
Mhm.
Anyone can jump into ChatGPT and get a how to article on absolutely anything and post that as a blog or a LinkedIn post, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
The thing that differentiates us from the machines and from your lazy competitors is going to be the stories that lead to trust to help you illustrate it. So, for anecdotes, I was trying to think back to my experiences when I was in my dream listener's shoes. So,
Mhm.
what did I feel, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago? What happened to me? What do I know now that I wish I knew back then? Tell
Right.
those stories. So, I mean, look, for example, the story that I love to tell was I used to think I was a marketing rock star. I was a performance marketer at an agency that was rocketing its way to the moon. I had clients that were spending $30 million a year, putting $1 into the ads machine, getting $2 out. ROI was killing it. And I just thought I was a champion. And then I moved into the B2B world, and all of a sudden, everything stopped working. Paid ads stopped working. Email nurture sequences stopped working. Facebook ads stopped working. And I panicked big time because I'd taken on some B2B clients in my own time, and I didn't understand why it was working or why it wasn't working. Even worse, there was no resource out there to show me how to do B2B marketing, and I was running out of time.
Mhm.
And I spent almost every waking moment learning, reading, testing to find out for myself because I had to, or I'd lose all these clients. And it
Right.
was that feeling that led me to create the B2B playbook so marketers would never have to feel that sense of hopelessness or lack of direction again. And I find that the audience can really relate to that story because they've either been through that themselves or they're on the other side or they're going through it right now.
Wow, that's amazing. That's perfect. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Is there anything that you wanted to share that I haven't asked you?
Oh, gee. I think, I guess probably like one of my favorite people that I learned from when it comes to personal branding
Mhm.
is I would say Tim Ferriss. And I'm not sure if you listen to Tim Ferriss, and
Of
he's got one
course.
of the world's biggest podcasts. He wrote the
Yep.
4 Hour Work Week.
Hmm.
He's got millions and millions of listeners. And I love how raw, open, and honest that guy is
Yeah.
without really making it a sob story.
Hmm.
And so there's one thing that, people say be raw, open, and honest, but I don't know about you, but I personally get a little bit tired when people post videos of themselves crying on camera and posting on LinkedIn. And sometimes it just feels so contrived and it's designed to get engagement. You
Hmm.
know, if that's how you felt, if that's what happened, sure, share it. But don't exaggerate the emotion for the sake of engagement or likes. Be your authentic self. And I think Tim does that incredibly well. He's raw, he's open, he's honest, but he doesn't push too hard into it. He just shares what's happening in his life.
Right.
Um, like over the last 6 months, Tim on his podcast was talking about wanting to have a family, wanting to have kids. Things were going really well with his girlfriend. Then all of a sudden, the next week, we hear, oh my God, they've broken up. And that is such a raw, open, honest thing to talk about. And Tim does share some information about it. And then he goes into, I guess, okay, now he's got to start that journey again and all the pains and trials that goes along with getting back in the dating world again.
Hmm.
And I guess just by him showing his flaws, just by him not exaggerating those emotions, but sharing what's actually happening, I
Right.
just buy into him so much more. And I think that's a great lesson for a lot of people out there trying to create their personal brand.
Yeah, I think I thought about a lot about that too when creating your personal brand authenticity. And it's not about doing what other influencers are doing. I mean, influencers and what the trending content is. Like, just talk about this like in this way, and you will get audience to engage with your content. That's just not something that's very authentic, is what I feel. And I think that's what you're trying to say as well. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
you got to lean into your own values, who you are as a person. I have been very, very fortunate in my life. I try not to take things too seriously. I talk about the moment where I was leaving the world as a corporate lawyer going to become a marketer. And I come from an ethnic household, Greek background, very difficult conversation to have with your father to say, I'm leaving this steady path of law and going into this whole new thing of marketing that he has no idea about. Now, that was a really hard conversation for me, but I treat that with humor. And the reality is, he and I have a great relationship. Yeah, it was a really hard moment in time. It's probably something a lot of people can empathize with, but I'm not going to pretend that it affected our relationship to some horrible degree in order to get more engagement. Stay true to yourself, stay true to your values, and just be that online.
Perfect. Yeah, fantastic, George. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your valuable insights and experiences. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Lovely to catch up. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for having me.
is there any way that our listeners can connect with you, or how do they listen to the B2B Playbook podcast?
Yeah, look, it's much easier for people to Google the B2B playbook than to know how to spell George Koutanaris. So just Google the B2B playbook will be the first result there, and then follow me on LinkedIn from there.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
That's all for today. Hope you found it useful. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email me at tmw@anushakaran.com. Follow me on LinkedIn to never miss my journey, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.